Alright, welcome to this cute little Valentine's craft tutorial. Today I'm going to do a little mini tutorial on how to make each one of these designs, and on the next part I will share with you all the materials that you're going to need, but feel free to skip around if there's a particular one that you're most interested in. These are short, quick little tutorials, and hopefully you find one that you like. Alright, let's get started with all the materials that you're going to need. I'm going to link as much of this as possible for you in the description of the video. But I am going to be using a few different size needles. I have a size 22 chenille needle for when we're working with all 6 strands of floss. I have a tiny beading needle because one of them I'm going to try to do some beads on. And then I have a regular size 5 DMC embroidery needle, which is a great one for most of our stitching. Got a little pair of embroidery scissors. I am going to be using some beads on one of the designs, so these are size 11/0 seed beads, and they're kind of a matte rose gold color, or a shiny rose gold color. And then I have some various colors of DMC 6-strand embroidery floss. I will go over which color specifically when I get to a certain design, but you definitely want to use the DMC brand. It's really great for stitching. And I also have a little shiny diamond. This is G225 rose gold thread that we're going to use on one of them. Sprinkles optional. Those are just there to be fun. And then I've got my drink sleeves. I will definitely link these for you. They come in a nice pack of like 12 or 15, I think, maybe 10, from Amazon. So this is perfect if you're doing like a Valentine's party or you want to make these for gifts, because they already come in a nice big pack. And then these stickers I sell in my Etsy shop, these little Valentine's trim stickers. You actually get 4 of each design in the physical pack, so you could do more than one, but one of them fits across a drink sleeve pretty perfectly. And then I also have this available as a PDF if you want to download it from home and print it yourself on a stick and stitch paper. So that's pretty much all of the materials that we need. The first thing that you're going to do is just peel away the stick and stitch paper from its backing and then place it towards the top of your koozie or your drink sleeve. And since I've got this one all ready to go, I'll show you what I'm going to do on this one first. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to try to do some beading to make our little X's here. So I'm going to use the rose gold beads, and I'm just grabbing any light pinky color or any really light colored thread is going to work. This one's a 758, but it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't be able to see this thread super well because it's going to be covered up by the beads, but you're just going to grab one strand of it and you're going to get it through the eye of your beading needle. Now this can be a little bit tricky to do. It's a very tiny eye. So sometimes it helps if you just cut a little bit extra off so you have a nice even edge there on your thread, and then wet the end of the thread and get it through that eye there. And then go ahead and tie off a knot a few times on the opposite end so that it doesn't pull through when we do our stitching. Okay, so go ahead and come up through the back right underneath of the drink sleeve or the koozie, right at the top of this X. And you're going to get a few beads onto your needle at once. I'm going to do about 3. I don't want to do more than 3 at a time just because I want them to stay nice and secure. So I'll show you how to add more on after that, but I'm going to go ahead and do 3. I'm going to push them back a little bit with my needle so that they're resting nice and tight against this side. So I'm pushing them back a little bit with my needle, and then I'm going to go ahead and make a down stitch right where they end. So I'm going to go right down here. Go ahead and pop this so that you can get that needle through and pull it through. Being careful not to go through the other side here. And then you're going to come back up through your fabric right at the end of where you left off. But see if you can come up almost behind that last, almost like as close as you can to where that last bead ended up. You don't want to leave a lot of space there, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to go ahead and add 3 more beads. push them back, see where they land, make a down stitch, pull that through, and I'm going to repeat that all the way down this first line on the X right here. Okay, that's looking so cute. So now we're going to go back up this way. You're just going to have to start and stop. So you'll go ahead and put on your beads 3 at a time all the way to here, make a down stitch, and then restart and go all the way to here with 3 beads at a time. You don't really want to do more than 3 beads at a time because then once you make your down stitch, they'll kind of swing around more, like they'll be a little looser. So 2 or 3 at a time is really going to be best so that they all stay where we want them to stay. When you get that done, you can go ahead and do the same thing on the next X as well. For the hearts on this one, I'm going to use this G225 rose gold shiny thread from DMC. And I'm just going to get off a little length here. Don't try to split these strands, they just stay together. I'm using my size 5 DMC embroidery needle. I'm going to get those all through the eye there. Tie off a knot at the other end. There are fancier ways to tie off knots, but that's how I do it. And then I'm just going to do a back stitch here. So I'm going to start right here at the bottom of this heart. Make a little straight stitch out to start. I always start back stitch with a little straight stitch out just to get my knot on the other side out of the way. Helps if you kind of hold this apart so that you can get your needle through and it doesn't go through the back side of the koozie. And then for every stitch after that, you're just going to come up a stitch length away from the end of your previous stitch. And you're going to go back down through the same hole at the end of the previous stitch. And repeat that all the way around. Come up a stitch length away and go back down through the same hole from the end of the previous stitch. We're going to be using back stitch a lot today. I'm going to keep these pretty simple. All of these other designs that we have, we're mostly just going to be using back stitch, maybe a little bit of whipped back stitch. But I want this to be a fun, simple, easy activity that you can do. So backstitch is one of my favorite stitches. It's great for outlining. It gives you that cute stitched, hand-stitched look. And yeah, I just love it. So you're going to go all the way around. When you're finished, you'll tie off a knot in the back and then repeat it for your other heart. And that'll be it for this one. All right, let's do our bows next. I wanted to kind of keep these colors very warm for these bows against this light pink, but obviously you can use whatever colors you want. I am going to use the beads one more time just for the center point of each bow, but we'll do that at the end. So I have 780, 3772, 781, and 814. And I'm just going to use a back stitch on these. So I'm going to start with 780. To make sure that they show up nice and clear, I'm going to use all 6 strands, and I'm going to use my size 22 chenille needle for this. So I'll just tie off a knot at the opposite end. And again, we're just going to do back stitch here. So I always like to start towards the bottom and work my way up if possible. So I'll start with this little ribbon coming down here. Go ahead and make that little straight stitch coming out. I'm going to keep my stitch lengths really tiny here so that they are written nice and cute. Whoops. Okay, and then I'm going to come up a stitch length away. And go back down through that same hole from the end of the previous stitch. Again, it helps if you can kind of pop your drink sleeve open a little bit so you can push that needle through. And then you'll go ahead and repeat all the way around the bow. All right, I finished back stitching each bow. I used 3772 here. This one was the 781, and then this one over here was 814. And now I'm just going to come in with my beading needle again and add one little bead to the center of each bow. So to do that, you can I like to come up just at the side, like I'm coming up right to the right side of that circle or that dot in the middle of the bow. So just sort of to the right of it. I'm going to grab one of my rose gold beads onto my needle, swing it down to the drink sleeve. I was going to say fabric, but push it over until it's resting right where you want it. And then go ahead and make a down stitch just on the other side of that bead. So to the left of the little dot in the center of the bow. And then pull that through, and there you go. Go ahead and repeat that for each other bow, and then this one's all done. Okay, for these little kind of conversation shaped hearts, I'm going to keep it real simple here. I'm just going to do a back stitch with all 6 strands of these colors. Since I've already shown backstitch a couple times in this tutorial, if you need to, just go ahead and flip back to that if that's what you're wanting to do on this one. But the colors that I'm using here are 966. I have this bright white, but you could just use the blanc as well. This one's B5 2000, and then I've got 210 and 729. And I'll probably just keep them in this order and go ahead and repeat that all the way across with a little simple backstitch outline and call this one good. All right, this one's all done. Next, I'm going to show you how to do the strawberries, and I'm going to teach you a couple new stitches on this one. So for the strawberry, I'm going to use 304, 3011, and then this dark green 935 for the center little seeds. But let's start with the outline. You're going to grab just 3 strands of 304. So I'm going to take off a length that I want to work with, and I'm going to split those strands right down the middle so that I have 3 and 3. So always a total of 6 with DMC embroidery floss. Set the other 3 aside because you'll need them later. And then go ahead and grab your size 5 needle and get your strands through there. Tie off a knot at the other end, and we're going to use what's called an outline or a stem stitch for these strawberries. I'm going to show you on this one right here just because it's a little bit easier for me to stitch through in the middle here, and I just want you to be able to see clearly, but you'll do the same on all of them. You're going to come up through the under or the back side of the koozie, and then go ahead and make a little straight stitch out like this. But before you pull all the way through, you're going to hold it out to the side. And I'm always holding it out to the outside of the strawberry. It doesn't really matter which direction you do, but you want to keep it consistent as we do this stitch. So I'm holding this out like this, and I'm going to come back up through the underside about just a little over halfway, closer to 2/3 of the way towards the end of that stitch right there. So you can see where my needle's coming up on the inside here. And then you're going to go ahead and pull all the way. Now you will repeat. You're going to make your next down stitch a little stitch length away. Keep your stitch lengths nice and tiny, especially at these two, at any of the like sharp curves here. Hold your thread out like this once you get close to the end. Come back up on the inside there, close to the end of your last stitch, and pull. Go ahead and repeat that. Now you could definitely just continue with backstitch here if you're more comfortable with that at this point. It's a little bit more simple, but this gives us a nice kind of smooth rope-like effect as we go around. And you're just going to continue that all the way around the strawberry. You could also do a back split stitch here, or a whipped back stitch would be cute as well. Whipped back stitch will give you the smoothest outline. This has kind of like a twisty look to it. Once you've made your final stitch, you can just make a down stitch right at the end of the line. And that'll complete that, and then go ahead and repeat that for the outline of every other strawberry. I'm going to teach you a really simple way to stitch in the stem and the leaves. I'm using 3 strands of 3011. So again, I'll show you on this middle one just because it's a little easier to see here. I'm just going to do a straight stitch for the stem, so just come up at the top of the stem and stitch right to where the little trio of leaves is. Okay, now for the leaves, you're going to start at the tip of the leaf come up through the back and make a down stitch. Imagine there's like a imaginary center line going down the middle of the leaf here. Go down about halfway through that and make your down stitch. And then you're going to come up to either side right underneath the tip of the leaf, but pick one side to come up through. And then you're going to go back down right underneath that center line, right underneath your previous down stitch. Pull through. Now repeat that on the other side. So come back up on the other side. And go back down right underneath your previous down stitch. Now go back to the other side, pull up through and go back down through the bottom here. And I should just need to do that one more time on the other side. All right, so now I have a cute little leaf filled in, and you can repeat that for all of your other leaves and stems. Okay, to finish up, you're just going to take 3 strands of 935 and just make a little straight stitch over each of the seeds. So just come right up at the top of one, pull up through, and then go right back down at the bottom of it and pull through. And repeat that for all of the other ones. And then we're done with the strawberries, and love is going to be real quick. I'll show you right in a second. All right, so for this one, I started with just a back stitch. I used all 6 strands of 8/16, and you could definitely leave it like this if you like the look. But if you want it to be a little bit smoother, you could come in with 3 strands of 8/16, and we're going to do what's called a whip back stitch. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so with those 3 strands, you're going to come up through the fabric and you're going to push your needle underneath that first stitch. I did a couple already, but I'm just going to come in right here. Doesn't matter which side you start from, but you want to be consistent each time. So then you're going to pull your needle underneath that stitch, then come back around to that same side that you chose to start from, push your needle underneath the next stitch, and pull it through. Come back around, push your needle underneath the next stitch. Make sure you kind of angle it up and out so it doesn't get stuck in the stick and stitch paper, and pull it through. And you'll just continue all the way through your lettering. You can see it starts to create this nice rope-like smooth effect here. Okay, whenever you are done stitching whatever design you're working on, you're going to wash away the remaining stabilizer paper. You make sure you are using warm water. It doesn't need to be scalding hot, just warm. Definitely not cold, because the warm water will dissolve the paper better. And you can just run it under your sink and let the water pressure dissolve away all of this remaining stabilizer paper. Make sure you do it for long enough. Sometimes it likes to cling, so really just use that water pressure to get all of the sticky paper away. Then you'll let these dry and you'll be good to go.